Welcome to Dare Yourself. I'm Natalie Kogan. If there is something calling to you and you've been waiting to feel ready, this is the show that dares you to begin, one dare at a time. And today we're talking about everyone's least and most favorite topic, money, but not in the way that you would expect. One thing I do promise you, you will think differently about money by the end of this conversation. And if you are open to it and you allow it, you will start to shift your relationship with money in a beautiful way. I do not claim this lightly. This isn't just the thing I say. I have had the gift of experiencing our guests' work, and it's helped me improve my relationship with money. And so I don't promise this lightly. My guest is Michelle Masters. Michelle is a personal development trainer and coach since 1995. I love this. Her expertise lies in the unique fusion of neuroscience-based change techniques and quantum transformation modalities. Don't you want to talk about that? I do. I got to know Michelle a few years ago and had an opportunity to attend one of her in-person workshops, and she and her work have had a deeply positive impact on my life, and I am so thrilled to welcome her to the podcast. Michelle, welcome to Dare Yourself.
Thank you, Natalie. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I told Michelle before we hit record, I was waiting for this for a long time. I'm so excited. Okay, we're going to dive right in. I just want to set a little bit of context, and then we're just going to flow. So this podcast and my work is all about helping people to tell themselves the truth about what they really want and then create it. And I work with accomplished, successful people to create their next chapter, whatever that is, a book, a new career, a business. And I would say 90% have some kind of a block around money. They worry they can't make enough, or they carry a story about how they don't deserve a lot. And Michelle, you know me, because we've worked together. As a Russian-born refugee, money scarcity stories, they have felt like they're a part of my DNA. So I'll share, actually, we'll dive into my story a little bit more later, because I want to tell you some stories about what your work has done for me. But I want to begin by asking you to talk about, why do we all have such a difficult relationship with money?
Yeah, and yes, it's a great question. And I can tell you that the three main things that I see that keep people stuck, the three whys, the three big whys, and one is old subconscious beliefs, like self-sabotaging beliefs. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years is most people are trying to change subconscious patterning with conscious action, which is a little like if there's a flood in Louisiana, sending relief workers up to Canada to talk about it. So this is why so many people get frustrated, because they're trying to change things consciously when that's not usually where the blocks are stored. They're usually in the subconscious. So beliefs like, you have to work hard to make money. Money doesn't grow on trees. There's not enough. Beliefs about self. We're not enough. We're not doing enough. We don't deserve that much. We have to earn it to deserve it. These are kind of common beliefs, especially that we're not okay, not enough, not worthy enough. And we have to somehow earn our worth through struggle, through sacrifice, and effort, So that's one of the big ones, is these old beliefs we carry around that actually aren't true. If actually working hard made you money, like janitors, mothers, high school teachers would be the 1%. But there's all these things that we hold as true that keep us stuck, that run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on a constant loop, like CNN, worst hits of your childhood are running on constant 24-hour-a-day loops without you even realizing it. But that's what's creating a lot of your money reality. Then there's the piece that you talked about, being a Russian immigrant and it being almost in your DNA. And that's another huge part, is the family and ancestral legacies we carry, because we live inside those. And one of the things I often say to people is, just for a minute, imagine if aliens passing through the galaxy decided to help you out, right? And they lifted up all your families and cultures and a history of tragedy and limitation and loss. If they lifted up all those old beliefs and family stories and struggles and traumas up off of you and moved it over to the side where you could look at it but not be in it, I always ask people, how do you feel? And almost instantly, everybody says, I feel so much lighter. Because we don't even realize how much we're carrying that's not ours until you do something like this. So that's actually one of the hugest blocks, is all this ancestral family stuff that we carry, where we're trying to either heal our family by carrying their pain or make it better for them, most of whom are dead anyway. And so, or at least not have it too much better, because when we have it better, we feel guilty. So those are two of the big ones. And the last one comes down to, although it's still a belief, the last one comes down to our sense of self-worth. That is just so huge. If we did nothing else but continually update our sense of worth, like, life would transform across the board, not just money, but relationships, health, happiness. That's one of the foundations that everything sits on. Yeah.
Well, I'm nodding to all three, and I know our listeners are too. And just to share with you and our listeners, and this, I had insights, very light insights of this, but didn't really full clarity on this until I did your workshop, of how much for me the family loyalty was playing a tremendous part, right? We lived in Russia, where no one had more money and money at all. And then we were refugees with 6 suitcases and there was no money. And the no money was the story, and the money is hard, and all the stuff. And it wasn't until I did that workshop with you where I realized, oh my God, that's like, it literally is like, I'm carrying this thing. So I'm sure you experience this in your work. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And now I see it in other people very easily too.
Yeah.
My parents live very close still. They live a couple miles away. And my mom will still drive like half an hour. They have a very wonderful life. My father has done very well. They have a wonderful life, but my mom will still drive like an extra half hour to get like 10 cents off the gas. And like all the work that I can do on my inner beliefs, there's the evidence, right? So,
Right there.
okay, so can we actually talk a little bit about this family stuff? Because I actually find that doesn't get talked about a lot. Our beliefs, yes, and I want to talk to you about, so how do we heal them if we can't heal them consciously? But I find that the family stuff, your work was the first to kind of make me realize that. Can you talk a little bit about, you said we either are trying to heal that, or we want to make sure we're not doing too much better because then we're leaving them behind. Can you talk a little bit about other ways that shows up? And maybe we can even think about, so how do we start to heal our relationship then with money if we're carrying the great-great-grandparents on our shoulders?
On our shoulders, yeah. Well, it starts so young is the thing. When a child is born into or conceived into a family system, they instantly have a bond with their biological family. And they feel the pain in the family and the struggles. And their instinct is always to want to heal it. I don't think there's ever been a child born in the history of humanity who did not want to heal their family. I'm sure there's never been a child born in the history of humanity who has pulled it off. But they all try, and they try in predictable ways. And it can start even in the womb. And the first way they start to try to heal their family is through love. Like, I will love them so much that it will all be okay. And because their love is so big and so pure, and because they have like zero sense of perception or proportion, it feels like, of course this will work. Why wouldn't it work? It has never worked. If it actually worked, every single parent would be instantly healed upon the birth of their first child. It would be like, congratulations, it's a boy, it's a girl, it's a them. And it'd be like, you know what, dear? I'm not sure what just happened, but I thought I was attachment avoidant, and I thought we were broken. I frankly thought you were a borderline alcoholic narcissist. But we had a baby and it's all fine. But there'd be no more therapists or coaches. There'd just be doulas everywhere. Got a problem, have a baby. But, that's never worked. It's never worked. And so then the kid goes to plan B, which is, I will take the pain from them. I will carry the pain. And it feels very loving and self-sacrificing. And we give ourselves big credit when we sacrifice ourselves out of love. Everybody does. Everybody, that's such a sweet thing. But in this case, you can no more take somebody's pain than you can take their irritable bowel syndrome. Like, you can't do it. You cannot take that from somebody else and they'll be free. All we end up doing is cloning it off. But free will says we can't take their stuff. And so then the last thing a kid does is they will then start, because when we have it better than people we come from, we feel guilty. I mean, how many times have you been like at a restaurant, a good restaurant, you're with a group, your appetizer comes first, right? And you know theirs is coming, and everybody says, no, eat your coconut shrimp while it's hot, and but it just feels so weird.
Yeah.
And so most people are like trying to share 3 shrimp amongst, a group of 7 people, or they just sit there and let it get cold because it just feels so strange to be eating when other people aren't. It's a really visceral experience. And so when our parents and our ancestors struggled, we feel it at a visceral level, and it just feels wrong for it to be easy for us. I was doing money magic in London, and I was doing some of this family constellation work to see for one person, which set the field for the whole group, but to see what was up with this one person's money. And that person came from, I didn't realize, she had an accent, but when I saw the representative for money, I'm like, oh my God, what the heck happened in this family? And so then I asked the person some questions, and it turned out they were Lithuanian. I'm like, oh, pretty much okay. You had me at Lithuanian.
Yeah.
Because there were so many famines, induced famines, that Stalin created where millions starved to death.
Yep.
And the thing was, it wasn't just the horror of the lack. It had the horror of the things that people do when they are so desperate.
Yep.
I mean, imagine if you have children and they are starving, and a family member has died, and you have nothing to feed your children, and there's a body.
Yeah.
Imagine what that does to your head.
Yep.
And so this was all associated for her with money. I mean, Stalin did that to gain control. And so no wonder, money was not working well. And it's not always that drastic, but I had a client one day who said to me, it's like I'm trying to get my business to fail. And I said to him, whose business failed? And he just looked at me and went, oh, my dad's.
Yeah.
So this is a huge deal. And it's running below the surface.
Well, Michelle, as you're talking, I'll just share with you and with the listeners. One of the exercises we did at your workshop is where you put these, and it's in, by the way, we'll talk about it more, but Michelle's new book is coming out, Wired for Money. I'm so excited for it. It's coming out later this summer. We'll put a link in the show notes. And it's exercises also in the book, but you set up 3 chairs, and one of the chairs was, I think, you chose a couple people from your family, and one of the chairs was the energy of money, and you would sit in different places to see how you felt money. And I would do it, and we all kind of did it on our own. You circled around the room, and I kind of felt certain things. And then I'll never forget this moment. Not that I expect you to remember it, Michelle. You work with a lot of people, but you came over, and I think I said something to you, and you asked me, you said, well, if you imagine your grandparents and your great-grandparents were sitting here right now, what would they say to you? And I just started bawling, crying, because I feel it now. They would just be like, go make all the money in the world times 1 billion. Like, they survived pogroms. My grandma survived the blockade of Leningrad. She ate 1 sugar cube every other day. She buried her mother with her bare hands. And she would be like, go buy yourself 17 pairs of jeans, please. Please go. Can you buy a fancier car? Is it possible for you to buy another house? I would love for you to buy yourself another. And I just started bawling. But it's that moment of realizing I have felt bad that's how she lived, and here I am, and I just went to Japan, and I brought my whole family to Japan, right? So I have goosebumps talking about this, right? Just sharing this. And so this is so powerful, and yet it's hard to admit this to ourselves, like to even say this to ourselves, because then there's also shame, I guess, comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shame and guilt.
And guilt, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that one of the strongest drives we have as human beings is to belong.
Yep.
And for some reason, human beings compute their belonging in terms of conformity. So when we're like the people we are with or we come from, we feel like we belong. And when we're different, belonging feels threatened. You know, that's why in the military they make because they're trying to instill a sense of belonging. So these men will be willing to die for each other. So they make them dress alike, haircuts alike, everything uniform, because they have to install that sense of, yeah, we're a unit. We are the same. We are working for each other. It's not about the individual. And so that it's that guilt when we have it better. And, you know, the funny thing is, it's not about morality even. Like Bert Hellinger, the guy that I learned the family constellation work from, famously said, in a family of thieves, a child who does not steal feels guilty. And so, so when we're like the people we come from, and their lives may have been god-awful, but we feel like we belong.
Yep.
And yes, and sometimes while parents are still alive, if they've had a rough go, sometimes it is hard for them to see their children do better. Not all parents, there are some. But once they die, they get over that immediately, and all they want is the best for us. All our ancestors, are just like, can you buy another car? Can you buy another house?
Yeah.
17 yeah.
No, it was a surreal moment for me. You know, it's interesting as you're talking, I'm thinking it's either people have had difficult lives and now we feel like we can't enjoy our life, or like one of my clients that I work with, she is, and this isn't what we were working on. We were working on helping her start a business, but I just noticed she's always trying to find a way to spend less money. And so even when it wasn't significant, and so I asked her, I said, tell me about like your family, your mom. And it turns out her mom was a single mom, and she prided herself on, I can always find a way to spend less money. And so of course, like that carries through. So what do we do, Michelle? Just on that, I have other questions, like other than we all run and buy your book. And I'm going to endorse this nonstop, everybody. There are very few books that I endorse like this. It is, you have to, so other than we do the exercise in Michelle's book and run to work with her, what can we do once we maybe have a little bit of opening, hopefully as you're listening, to recognize like, oh, I have been trying to belong to my family and stay loyal.
Yeah. Again, it is a hard thing to address unconscious stuff consciously. But it's ideal if we can start to notice that when you come here, you belong. If you're born into a family, you belong there. And, you know, if you think of a company with different departments, if 3 of the departments are doing really well and 1 department is struggling, like no one would suggest the other 3 should start to struggle, right?
Such a great example.
Yeah. If you've got, to use a current example, if somebody's got an infection in their arm, you don't want the rest of the body to get infected in solidarity. So sometimes we have to put it on manual a little bit, and as one of my teachers used to say, you know, feel guilty all the way to the bank. But it helps to know that it's not doing anybody any good for us to needlessly limit ourselves or suffer. When you join someone in their suffering, you just make more suffering, which is what I heard from a channel named Jason in the 9. But it's really well said. Like, you know, if someone is unhappy and we join them in their unhappiness, we just make more unhappiness. If someone is sick and we get sick with them in solidarity, we just make more sickness. So we need to start to, we can be compassionate and care about people and want to help them within reason. Like, you actually can't change other people's destinies for them, much as we would like to, especially with our parents usually. That's the rule. You don't get to change anybody else's destiny. But we have to be willing to let other people have their experience and choose something better. And the more people who choose something better, the less pressure there will be to suffer as well.
That's so beautifully said. And we've talked about this, so you know this,
Yeah.
I'm a Russian Jew. So what you're saying about don't join in the suffering is literally the opposite to the because I grew up with programming that suffering together is love. That's how you show love. If someone is suffering and you do not go suffer over there, you do not love them. So and I know it's not the only tradition and culture of this. It's unfortunately many. But that's powerful, what you said. And I think it's also, just to share this, because I think it'll resonate with listeners too. My daughter, Mia, she was born here. She's had a wonderful life. She did not have to live in refugee camps, and, she's had a comfortable life.
Yeah.
And I don't sit there and feel bad about that. My husband and I talk about that quite a bit. How wonderful is that? She has new problems, right? They're not related to money. They're, kind of doctor do I want to be, studying for med school, that's hard, boyfriend stuff, wonderful life stuff. But when I look at her, I don't say, oh, I wish Mia would really feel how I felt, in the refugee camp, really wanting a slice of pizza, and I couldn't have it, and I knew my parents couldn't buy it for me, and my dad was so, right? We don't wish it on our children, so I think that's also helpful perspective to realize, well, why does it make sense backwards? Yeah. Talk about, so the family side, the other, and you talk about this in your book and in your work, this invisible ceiling that we create for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, this one is it's a real thing. So the thing is, most of our beliefs are in place by the age of 3, actually. Pretty much all of them by 6. Our foundational beliefs are all in place really young. And they are made up in response to our environment. And so, a lot of people think their brain is just this, one unit, but it's a bunch of different brains that are patched together with really, frankly, spotty interfacing. And different departments of the brain, and kind of like any, most of the governments I've seen, the different departments do not readily share information with each other, and they frankly view each other with suspicion. And this is kind of how the brain operates, where there's different departments, and the department that's in charge of our safety is the very first one to come online. And it's really primitive wiring. And it doesn't evaluate, it just makes pure associations. So whatever a kid is experiencing when they're growing up, this isn't evaluating, it's just experiencing it and checking for, are we still alive? Because if we're alive, it's okay. It's not checking for quality of life, it's checking for quantity. And so all it really cares about, are we alive? Biologists joke that it's in charge of the 4 F's: fight, flight, feeding, and reproduction. That's its whole thing.
Thank you for keeping this podcast clean on the radio.
Yeah. And so that is taking recordings of everything we experience and kind of creating a worldview and a sense of what's safe and what's not. And kids feel their parents' feelings. And so if parents are stressed, especially the younger the child, for that child, this shows up as kind of a threat. Okay, this means life is not safe, or life is not easy, or maybe I'm not easy, or maybe I'm too much, or life is too much, or life is hard. Those start in the womb even. And so we develop all these kind of beliefs about the world based on those first 3 to 6 years. And we make a lot of it be about us. It must be me, because the part of our brain that can tell something is separate from us is really not operating until 7, 8 years old. So we take it all personally. And so we develop all these beliefs, but then there's this about what the world is like, how much you can have, what's normal, how much stress is normal, how much struggle is normal, how much feelings of worthlessness is normal, etc. And then all that kind of goes into lockdown. It's really it's designed to be hard to update. And here's the thing. So later on, as you grow and develop and you get a new sense of what's possible in the world, and your vision expands and your ideas about what's possible and what you want expand, this just keeps running the old patterning. And if you start to make your life be better, this part of your brain, your adult brain, knows this is good. My life is getting better. This is what I want. But for this, it's different. And this part of the brain does not like different. It does not like different at all. If it could vote, it would vote conservative every time. Does not like change. And so, because it knows it survived struggle, the lack of struggle feels like it could be potentially fatal.
Yep.
And so, whatever level of emotional and energetic struggle, threat, tension, worthlessness, or feelings of unlovable or insecurity we grew up with, because we didn't die, it regards these as good, and it will seek to maintain whatever level of stress, anxiety, worthlessness, etc. we grew up with, so that we can continue to not die from it. It makes no logical sense, but it likes the familiar, even if the familiar was awful.
Yep.
It doesn't, and so it will seek to recreate it, kind of like a financial, like a what do they call it, in a plane, where they set the autopilot to maintain a certain altitude, right? And if you hit it will course correct. The plane will course correct for dips and lifts so that it comes out. So if you had a certain amount of struggle, and then you start to do better, like most of you is thrilled, and then this part's like, hold on there, Buster, and it will course correct. It will create somehow a bill or a loss or something to get it back to where it thinks is stable. And that's why, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is true, and as you're talking about, and again, I always try to be really honest with listeners with my work, just to share my own experiences with this, as you're talking about. Like, I literally see, there were several times in my life, and it's interesting because I think it can be different aspects, but where I walked away from millions of dollars. And I walked away from millions of dollars as the breadwinner of the family, with not like I had millions of dollars, but I walked away at the opportunity to I just had to keep what I was doing. And it always baffled me. Now, partly, and I assume we can have many reasons for things, I think part of it, my soul was just trying to run it was trying to get me to be who I am. I was in venture capital, I was in finance, and I think my soul was dying in it, and it was trying to get me out. But it's even happened in my current business, where all of a sudden the income would just drop significantly with no explanation. And it has to be this invisible ceiling, because there is no rational reason. Now, again, we make a rational reason, we articulate it, but it's fascinating, but it's also true, because I study neuroscience, right? Our brain, a part of our brain really prefers the familiar, no matter what it is, because that's good. It's safe. There's no danger in it. And so it's, I guess I want to ask you this question, Michelle. Obviously, in your work, you see people and you help people, right? Increase the
That
ceiling.
is the goal.
That is the goal, right? Break through the ceiling. The one thing that fascinates me about your work, and this is what you started with as well, is that you talk about the fact that it doesn't have to be hard. Because I didn't grow up thinking that I would become a mentor to people or help them to break through their inner limits, but this is what I do in many ways. And I've noticed just in the past year of how we talk about it as it's hard. It's hard inner work. It's hard work. Well, it's very hopeful to me when you talk about it doesn't have to be hard. Can you talk about that? Like these stories that we picked up when we were 3 and have carried, I'm 50 years old, our whole life.
Yeah.
And you're here saying it doesn't have to be that hard for us to remove the ceiling.
Yeah.
It does sound like magic, I do have to say.
I get it. I completely get it. And there's some quantum effects in there on that magic side as well. But just talking this part for a minute, yeah, it doesn't have to be hard. We keep making it hard because we think it has to be hard. And so what it requires to make it work easily, because like I said, most people are trying to change the subconscious stuff consciously. So they're throwing all these actions at it and doing affirmations. And there's nothing wrong with affirmations. But first off, we never do affirmations for something we already believe, right? What would be the point? So we're always affirming things that we don't yet believe. And the conscious affirmation might go on for a few minutes, maybe an hour. But all the beliefs that are still running from childhood run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the sheer volume of that just overwhelms so much of our conscious action. But if you go in and access the place where the patterning, the old patterning is actually stored, like where that tape is running, and you change that to something that is in alignment with what you want, and then that begins to run on its own 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it does feel like magic. Like all of a sudden, like, where did all this money come from? Where did all these sales come from? Where did all these clients come from?
Yeah.
You know, I the first 27 years of my career, I had no visible signs of marketing, but I did this work. I did this work first, and so it took me all over the world. And I liked my. I'm not gonna lie, I liked my kind of quiet little boutique life. But it worked. Everything was working, and then now as I'm 64 now, I figure I got 20, maybe 30 years of work left in me. I realize I really want more people to have access to this, which requires me playing a bigger game. And I found I had beliefs that I hadn't hit yet because I had never expanded out that far. But every time I shift one of those, it's like just stuff just keeps lining up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it does sound like magic, but I want to clarify for you and for everyone listening. Probably 5 years ago, when I used the word magic, it was like the dismissive kind. I think magic is real. I think it's, so when I say magic, yeah. And okay, I want to share the story with you and with everyone. Michelle's magic in action, because, and I think I shared this at the workshop. I read Michelle's book before I went to her workshop, because, you know, I have to do my homework, because I gotta, you know, I gotta work hard, right? I gotta be the #1 student. And I read the book, and I thought it was wonderful because it has the neuroscience, but I mostly dismissed it. I was like, well, it's not going to work for me. I am very special. My suffering around money, and I'm very special. Okay. So I came to the workshop, and we did lots of wonderful things. One of the exercises you did was very simple. To me, it felt like the simplest one, which is probably why I had the least resistance to it, because I was like, oh, this is so silly. Where... and I'll mention it and then you can talk us through later, where you had us think of something we wanted and actually close our eyes and envision a calendar and put it on a specific date and envision some things around it. It took like 5 minutes, maybe less. And I remember I did it almost like as a throwaway. I was like, oh, well, this is like really silly stuff. So what I wished for, what I said I wanted, was an art studio. And I envisioned it, and I put it, you had us literally envision how time flows. For me, it's horizontal. It's going from left to right. So this was January, and I envisioned it for August. So I put it somewhere over here on the right. And then I left, and I was like, great. I mean, I forgot about it. And I mean, I know you hear thousands of these stories, but I know just like in my case, they never cease to make me feel great. I signed a lease for my art studio in March of that year. Wow. So and then I remember I might have emailed you because I was like, it happened in March. You were like, how dare the universe give you what you want ahead of schedule? I said August. And just for just clarity's sake, in January, that was like maybe the first time I even let myself say the word I want an art studio, because I was still very hesitantly allowing myself to come out as an artist. So it was just something I couldn't even envision having it. And my art studio is 4 minutes from my apartment, and it's beautiful, and it's perfect. It's wonderful. But just that's the magic, right? So here's the magic in action. And again, I laughed when the studio came up and I actually signed it. I was thinking of you, and I know I emailed you. So this doesn't have to be hard, because I know lots of people listening are going, well, it can't work for me. Right, but we are. So you've mentioned the word quantum a couple times. Talk a little bit about the quantum modality of this.
Well, you know, so as human beings, we do perceive ourselves in a physical body in a linear time space. Like we do have that experience. And so one of the things I loved about the neuroscience pieces is they work within that realm where we experience ourselves as physical in time space. Then there's that whole family lineage thing, which is a little bit outside of time and space, but we experience ourselves as part of a collective. And so the family system works on that. But as human beings, we also have this eternal soul that exists outside of time and space, like we are infinite beings. And so I like to be able to include some of that too, to meet the parts of us that exist there. And especially once you clear up some of the old stuff that's in the way, it becomes increasingly obvious how very magical we are. So, like, just to give you an example, I got invited to teach in Taiwan, and I'm going in December, and I wanted to throw in a little vacation because I've never been to Japan. And we wanted to see Disney Sea. Don't judge us. We really want to go see Tokyo Disney Sea.
No judgment, but now
Yeah.
I made a note. I have to send you our Japan trip highlights.
Okay, yeah, we're going to go to Kyoto and probably Disney Sea. But yes, send us that. But anyway, but I wasn't seeing the flights I wanted. And I'm like, no, those are no. And I just flat out kind of said to the universe, because I've done a lot of the work. I just said to the universe, this is what I feel comfortable paying. So we can fly, these places and do business class. So we have, because otherwise it's just better for our health. And so then yesterday I got an email exactly in the price range I wanted, And so I've come to expect that things can just work out, once I'm clear. That is a big part of it, though. You got to be clear on what you want. So many of us are trying to. We've laid out like a 10 to 20 year process on what we think we need to do to finally then be able to have what we want, when really often what we want can be so much closer and so much more immediately available. So the quantum thing is, we do exist outside of time and space. And when you're outside of time and space, there's no before and after, which means that changes can show up before you do the change work. So I created the Money Magic Workshop that this is the books were based on. And at first it was mostly neuroscience and family constellation work, and in 2006. And then in 2008, I went to see the late, great Richard Bartlett do a matrix energetics workshop with Melissa Joy, and it was a quantum way of working. So I took some of those quantum tools and I added them into the field of the class. So I don't make people do these exercises. I literally put it into the field of the class and the work and the book. And so when I did that, because effects can precede causes, there is no time and space, there doesn't need to be causal action in the way we typically think there does. What happens all the time now, people will sign up for a workshop, and before they even do the workshop, they'll get all this money, surprise money. Every time I do the workshop, I ask people, who's gotten unexpected money since you signed up? And it's usually at least a third, if not a half of the group. Because outside of time and space, there's no objections. And there's no amount of effort required when you're not in time space. Thoughts are real things. And especially if you're clear on what you want and you actually want it. Those two things, clarity and desire, if there's nothing in the way, no self-sabotaging patterns in the way, that is enough to make things show up. And it's kind of a long story, so I won't tell it here, but in the book, I tell one of my favorite stories about how there was something I really wanted, and I was clear that I wanted it, and I didn't have any objections, and the way it showed up was very entertaining when I was doing a kind of household project one day. But the universe is always trying to deliver to us what we want. It's not judging us. The judging is us. We do all the judging. And it's here to help. But it helps for you to know what you actually want, not what you think you need to do. Your job is really to steer more than paddle. So to know what you actually want, and if you actually want it, and want it for itself, not want it. A lot of people think they want something, but they want it because they're scared of, like they want money because they're scared they won't have enough. Yep. So there's this desire for money, but it's sitting right on top of this like fear of not having enough. And that fear kind of works against the desire, kind of cancels it out in a certain way. But if there's something you, like your art studio, right?
Yeah.
That was just a pure desire.
Yeah.
Like, or us going to Disney Sea in Kyoto, pure desire. There wasn't like then we won't be in danger. It was none of that. And boom, when those two things are there and there's no self-sabotage, it's amazing how reality rearranges itself in our favor.
Which is what you're talking about, Michelle, and I'm observing most of me now is aligned with this way of living, but there's still some old stuff, which is, well, that's just absurd. Because, well, the absurd claim is not the universe, the quantum. The absurd thing is that the world exists to give you what you want, because of course not, right? That's actually one of the beliefs that many people carry, that no, we don't live in a friendly universe, that no one's trying to give us what we want. It's the opposite, right? We have to walk through 9 brick walls and the world is unfair and all, which goes back to where you started, is we have to get honest about what those beliefs are.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that doesn't work. And you know, the interesting thing that you're talking about, we have to get clear on what we want. I'm realizing how often, and it's what you're talking about, we don't say the thing we want, we talk about the process or the things. Like I was talking to someone, a friend, we were just having a conversation, and she said, well, I'd love to have like 5 more clients. She does kind of financial coaching, traditional financial, like accounting stuff, and like financial well-being. She said, I'd love like 5 more clients. And I said, and then what? She's like, and then I feel like I'll be like, that's the kind of money I want to be making. But she said 5 more clients. Right. She didn't say, I want to, whatever, make X money, because, and I understand that feels like, well, no, I have to earn it.
Yeah.
I can't just get it. I have to earn it. It has to be hard.
Yeah. And we're the only ones in nature that do this. Like all the rest of nature does not stress itself out. You know, you'll never hear one tree bragging to another. You know, I was up 16 hours last night photosynthesizing. So, you know, like all of nature reaches for what it needs and wants to grow and thrive, not just manage, but thrive. Like, and without being apologetic about it. But as humans, we make ourselves crazy about reaching for what we want and have all kinds of judgments about it and what we have to do to deserve it. Like, how often have you heard somebody say, yeah, it's a nice house, but I worked hard for it? Like, makes it okay, right? Like, that makes it okay. And so what those beliefs do is they just generate more obstacles that you have to overcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what someone said to me, actually, as a friend, I gave given your book a lot, and I gave her a copy of your book after I came from the workshop. I actually ordered it to her. I was flying from the workshop to her house in San Francisco, and I ordered it to her house, and I was like, read it. And she also comes, not Russian refugee, but a different country refugee, hard life, etc. And she started reading it as I was there, and she was like, okay, all of this like feels good to me, but wait. If we all do this, we're just going to turn into lazy people and never work again, right? We'll just all be sitting around wishing for things. So I know myself 10 years ago would have had the same objection. What do you say to that, Michelle?
Well, when you got your art studio, did you stop doing stuff?
Of course not. I've been doing many more things. I started this podcast because I was like, oh, I have this beautiful place to talk to people. I started doing new retreats. I have women coming this weekend because I was like, oh my God, I have space. Because until now I had a, little tiny spot in our apartment. Yeah.
When we start living from where we're inspired, we're not as inclined to just sit on the couch and, we don't have to recover from the hard work of doing stuff we don't want to do, right? Because the life we're living is actually starting to feed us and it energizes us. And so, I mean, if you've ever been around somebody who's overworked and burnt out like a social worker, and then been around somebody who is really just lit up by what they're doing, like which one of those people has a better effect on you, Both are good people, all of them. It's not a judgment on anybody, but somebody who's talking to you, even though they're tired and burnt out, has a certain kind of energy that's different from somebody who is, just so alive and so happy to be talking to you. Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I am my own reference point because I spent a lot of my life exhausted and burnt out, and I can see the effect it had on my family. I mean, Mia, my daughter, will be the first to tell you. She experiences, of course, she loved me then, but she'll tell you, like, you're a different energy. I experience you in a different way. Yeah, when you put it like that. One last thing I'd love for you to talk about, and this is, again, I'll share an experience from the workshop. So Michelle had us do this exercise where you were doing someone's family constellation, and we each had a role, but we didn't know what it was. And and then there's things that take place. And I was part of it. I didn't know what my role was, but I remember it was pretty dramatic stuff. People were crying and upset, and I felt none of that. I just felt really good. And I remember standing there feeling like an idiot. I was like, everyone's tuned into something. I'm not, you know. And then when you revealed everyone's role, you said that I was money. I was the energy of money. And I was just happy. And then you talked about how money is just the energy of blessings, right? And it was a surreal moment for me because I was like, oh, can you talk about that? Because that, I think, runs up into the essence of what we're talking about, right? It's not,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people think, oh, money is the most important thing, or money is evil, or money, you know, a spectrum. But you talk about money, and you talk about this in your book. It's the energy of blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, so the when I do a constellation, even before I did constellations, I did this work to try and get all the stuff that we project onto money off of it and notice its true nature, because we project so much of it's mostly fear. Fear and greed, which is fear of not having enough, whether it's resources, power, control. But we project all of our fear stuff onto the medium, you know. And so one of the exercises, it's in the book as well, is there to just notice all the stuff that's being projected onto money and start just removing it. Like, whose stuff is that? Oh, that's my dad. Oh, whose stuff is that? Oh, that's my mom's whole line. And when you move out all the fear and tragic projections, the energy of money always seems to show up the same. It shows up as this warm, benevolent, it's the energy of blessings. And there's not anything evil about it. It just feels like one of the ways the universe wants to love and bless us. And once I really got a sense of that, it really shifted my relationship to money, because I had always wanted to teach a spiritual class, and I was given this money class, and it's become one of the most spiritual things I do. But I realized I had a bunch of stuff around money. Like, oh, spiritual people shouldn't want money. That's like saying, if you're aligned with the universe, you shouldn't want to thrive. You shouldn't want to be happy. And this is not how nature works. Like, nature is all good with thriving, and being part of that blessed experience. And so that was a huge eye-opener for me, because none of the other stuff makes sense. It doesn't make sense to say the love of blessings is the root of all evil. Like, that makes no sense. And the more we let ourselves be blessed by it, it's a very different energy. It's not a clutching energy or a hoarding energy. It's a receptive and appreciative energy that has a very good effect, unlike the fear-based stuff. So there's just, so many of us, not through no faults of our own, we have these nervous systems that get kind of hijacked really early, and then we spend so much of our life responding from fear filters. And so each one of those that starts to change at the root, at the subconscious level, we just become, like, our world gets safer, and we get safer for people to be around, and it just sends these ripples of increasing safety and blessings out from us. And that's quite a legacy. If you're starting to have that effect where you're spreading feelings of calm and safety and blessings, boy, if you want to make a difference in the world, change that stuff in you, and you will actually change things in the world.
Yeah, beautifully said. Is there, obviously everyone should read the book. I'm going to keep saying this. Is there a simple exercise you can walk us through, or something that, something simple that we can do together?
Sure, but how much time do we have, do you think?
How much time do you want?
Okay. So, all right. So, what would be... Okay. So let's try this for a minute.
Okay.
If you're having any concerns or fears or struggles around money, take a moment and just notice the feeling of whatever the fear or struggle is, like the emotional feeling, but also the physical feeling, like where you feel that in your body. Do you feel it in your stomach, in your chest, in your neck, in your jaw? Just notice where you feel it. And then, without thinking about it too much, just allow yourself to kind of move backwards in time And let the parts of you that know how to do this kind of let yourself kind of stop wherever these feelings began. And don't try to do, if you can do it without thinking about it, just let yourself travel back to where these kind of struggles or tensions or fears began. I'm going to be quiet and let you do that. It's ideal if you just let yourself feel into it rather than try to logic it out. And then as best you can, notice about how old do you feel? Do you feel like you're old enough to go to school or younger? Because all the big beliefs really happened young. They might not have played out until later, but the groundwork all got laid really young. So notice, do you feel old enough to go to school or younger? Old enough to walk or younger? Or have you even been born yet? Just notice about how old you feel. And as best you can tell, what was going on when this all started for you. Who was there or not there? What were they doing or not doing? And what did you think, if anything, is meant about you and life and money? Then come out of there, like mentally, and come out of there. And by the way, this is most useful, what we're about to do, if when I say step into the body of the younger you, you actually imagine being in the body of the younger you, not just standing on the outside talking to the younger you. But just notice whatever it was that you thought that meant, for just a minute, you be outside of, like, be in your adult self for a minute. And if you can see my arm here, I would say pick a spot that you can squeeze, but don't squeeze yet, kind of hover. Until I say squeeze, and just notice how old you actually are now, and we're talking in 2026. Just notice how old you are and that you're still alive, and then squeeze. And first things first, hold that, go step into the body of the younger you. Imagine you're in their body, looking through their eyes, breathing with their lungs. Squeeze this, let that younger you know you're guaranteed going to make it to at least 2026. We know that, already done. That can never be taken away. Whatever was going on back then will never have been fatal. You've already made it. Breathe that through your belly while you squeeze. Be in that younger you. Breathe that through your heart while you squeeze. And breathe that up and down your brainstem. You made it. You've already made it to the year 2026. Up and down your brainstem. Then, when that feels like it's settled in a little bit, you can let go, shake a little bit. The reason it's important to step into the body of the younger you is that's how you actually access the subconscious. Because when you imagine you're in the body of that younger you, it lights up the area where the original patterning is stored. That's what makes this work a lot more effective. It can permanently start to change things. Okay, now, so since I don't know what everybody's working on, we got a bunch of different people. They probably have a bunch of different experiences. So I'm going general. I'm going to be very general in this. Find a new spot to squeeze. So not the same spot, maybe a little lower down, maybe the other arm, but don't squeeze till I say. But imagine a really wise person. The the wisest person you can imagine or that you know of. It could be a real person, it could be your Uncle Bucky, it could be the Dalai Lama, it could be Albus Dumbledore. I'm easy. But a really wise person, step into that wise person and look into the heart and mind and soul of that younger version of you, into all their little hiding places, all their little nooks and crannies. And from inside this wise person, as you look into that kid's heart and mind and soul, just notice, is this some sort of worthless devil child who doesn't deserve to be happy? That seems absurd, right? If you think that's absurd, if of course this kid deserves to be happy, squeeze. Please go then step into that kid, be in that younger version of you, squeeze this. Breathe in through your belly. Of course you deserve to be happy. What kid doesn't deserve to be happy? Breathe that through your belly. We had somebody really wise look, and they really looked. They looked in your heart. They looked in your mind. They looked in your soul. And of course you deserve to be happy. Breathe up from your belly up into your heart. Of course you deserve to be happy. The more happy people there are, the better for all of us. Of course you deserve to be happy. Breathe up from your heart up and down your spine and brainstem. Of course you deserve to be happy. Of course. You squeeze and breathe until that settles in. And when that feels complete, you can let go, come back, and shake a little bit. And we'll do one more of these. These, like I said, are kind of general, but these are some of the greatest hits of, childhood beliefs. Okay, so shake a little. Helps your neurology to integrate and helps get you back in your adult self. And find one more spot. Could be on either arm, could be on a leg, but one new spot. Don't squeeze it till I say. But please notice, since most of our beliefs and patterns and struggles are in place by 3 to 6 years old, everything that your parents struggled with, all of their hurts and traumas and struggles, were in place decades before you got here. Whatever they had going on was not your fault. Squeeze and hold. Because their beliefs were formed probably decades before you were even thought of. Take that, step back into that younger you. Get in your body, look through your eyes, breathe, squeeze and breathe through your belly. Whatever had them struggling was there long before you came along. Not your fault. Not your job to fix it, not even your right to fix it. Breathe that through your belly. Not your fault. They would have been this way even if you never came along. If somebody else came in your spot, your parents would have had the same struggles. Breathe this from your belly up into your heart. Their beliefs were in place decades before you got here. Not your fault. And then breathe that from your heart up and down your spine and brainstem, especially up and down your brainstem. Not your fault. Not about you. Their beliefs were there before you got here. Their struggles are not about you. We know you made it. Their struggles are not about you. And of course you deserve to be happy. Kind of holding all of that as you breathe through your belly. Continue to squeeze this last spot. None of that was about you. Of course you deserve to be happy. We know you're going to make it. You might as well enjoy the ride. Allow yourself to kind of slowly grow up from way back there to your current age, just breathing through your belly, heart, and brainstem. You're going to make it. Of course you deserve to be happy. And their struggles were not your fault. You might even put that wise person there with you to ride shotgun as you're growing up. Nobody else can see them, but you can. Anytime you're not sure, just ask them, "Is this me?" And notice what the wise person tells you. And for you overachievers, you can keep going out into your future as well. And when that feels done, you can let go. That was probably too slow for some of you and too fast for some of you, but hopefully it was just right for many of you.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so grateful for you, and I know I put you on the spot. I so appreciate it. I just wanted everyone to experience some of your work, not just
Me too.
think about it. Because when I, just knowing my own, like, my brain could be a skeptic right up until the moment where things happen, and then it doesn't. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to say this again, everyone. Michelle's book is called Wired for Money. It actually, the original version was written decades ago. That's the version I read, but it is coming out in a beautiful new format. We'll put the link in the show notes, and of course, include the details. I encourage you all to pre-order it. As a fellow author, pre-orders really matter. It's just how it works. So I encourage you pre-order it. And as Michelle talked about in the quantum, if you just think about the book and pre-order it, wonderful things could start to happen even before it arrives. So there's a reason to pre-order it. Michelle, I end every episode of this podcast by giving a dare to the listener. And I wonder if I may give you the baton for you to share something that someone could undertake as a dare around what we've talked about.
Okay. Because I often get asked for sort of conscious things. So here's a dare. Try starting out your day, every day for a month, asking your ancestors to bless and support you to getting the things that you want, that you really want. That's it. That's all you have to do is ask. You have to ask. But just start asking your dead ancestors, most of whom are dead and long over all their issues, for help in getting you help and support for the things you really want. And notice what happens. And let us know.
Beautiful practice. I'm taking it on, everyone. I'm taking the dare. I do some morning wonderful things. I'm adding that on. So I'm taking the dare. Thank you, Michelle. I encourage you all to take on some beautiful, doesn't seem hard, not a lot of work. Simple practice. Beautiful. Michelle, I am deeply grateful for you, not just for coming on this podcast and sharing yourself so openly, but just for your being in this world, and not just for the way you've personally impacted me, but just for the warmth and generosity with which you share the magic that you have to share. Thank you for being.
Thank you, Natalie. I have so much love and respect for you. I'm so glad I got to chat with you.
Yeah, what a gift. And thank you, listeners, as always. I love hearing from you. Shoot me an email. Tell me what resonated. Tell me if you took on the dare. Tell me if you're experiencing all kinds of money magic in your life. I'll share it with Michelle. And that's all I have for today. I will be with you next week on the Dare Yourself podcast. Have a good one, everyone.